everyone, Amber here from So Majestic. Thank you so much for joining me today. I am so excited to be a part of the Halloween sewing marathon with the Marathon Society. Today I am super grateful to be sewing up the Batwing wallet from Brittalicious Designs. So I have her website linked. Definitely check it out. It is such a fun little pattern. So the Batwing wallet here, it has the little flap. And shout out to Jade from Heartwood and Hide for this gorgeous tag. And then when you open it, it has two card slots, or sections with card slots and slip pockets behind. And then the back has this adorable little zipper pocket. So this pattern was super fun, and I hope you enjoy it. Let me know in the comments what you think. So I use my Cricut to cut out only the vinyl. SVGs are included for all the pieces, but here I'm cutting the exterior pieces. Here I have laid out all my cutout pattern pieces. So I am using a vinyl, a floral embossed vinyl available in my shop for the exterior. And I have cut out the interior using a cotton woven that I found at Joann's. So I have the main wallet piece, the Batwing, the two card slot pieces, pocket pieces, lining, the main lining. And I will say, just pay attention whether you're cutting by hand or by SVG. So if you want your pattern to be like right side facing up, you want to make sure you might have to change some of the pattern pieces, like which way you cut them, right sides facing up or down. I have my pieces of Decoville Light for stabilizer. I am using this black and red zipper tape and pull that's also available in my shop. The clear vinyl for the ID pockets. I have the snap kit and hole punch that I just purchased on Amazon. And I have two different double-sided tapes. This one I just got from Amazon, but it's very sticky and sticks up my needle. And this is wash away from drits. So I'm going to try this on places where I have to sew through, because my machine hates double-sided tape and loves to skip stitches. So if you're having that problem, that will be something that you can pay attention to. And for the card slots, I'm using a water resistant canvas, so it doesn't have that thicker back blacking, and these are just some scraps that I had, so that works perfect. And I'm going to be using this variegated Tex 35 thread from Wizardry Stitchery. I love this thread. I literally use it on every single thing I sew. And it works in both. I use it in both my needle and in my bobbin. So I may use some other tools as we go along, but this is the main tools, the main pattern pieces, everything that I have cut out and ready to go. All right, so the first thing that we're going to do is we have our exterior vinyl piece, and I have flipped it over, and we are going to sew our Batwing lines. So for me, I used a silver marking pen, and I did it on the wrong side. And I did that just so I don't have to switch out to my Teflon foot yet. So I am going to stitch along these lines at a top stitching length. And I'm using a Singer 5528, which is like an old Singer domestic. And the needle I'm using is a 9014 Microtex. Whenever I'm working with vinyl, I always use a 9014 Microtex. So I am going to start stitching, and I'm not going to backstitch because I am going to tie off my ends so you don't see the backstitch on this side. So I hand cranked it in to get where I wanted to start, and I'm going to follow my line. And you want to make sure that you leave enough tails at the beginning and the end, so that way you have the room to tie these off. So I had plenty in the beginning. So I'm going to pull this out to make sure I have enough in the end. And now how I do this is I also have a seam ripper stiletto combo. And on the back, it kind of blends in because I'm using a black and red variegated, so you can see some of the stitches. So on the back, I pull on the string that is coming through the back side. And by pulling on that, it should bring up, it's hard to see because it's all black, but it should bring up this back side. It's not on that one, so let's see. Okay, so this one did it easier. So when I pulled up on this string on the backhand side, it created a loop here. And I'm gonna stick my stiletto into that loop and pull the string through from the front to the back. So now I don't have a string showing anywhere on my front. So I am going to triple knot it. And this is just, you can backstitch, it's not a big deal. This is just if you want to hide that backstitch, if you don't want to be able to see it, but we still need our string secure. And then I just snip it, but I leave a little bit just in case. I don't like snipping all the way to the knot. And you could burn your tails too after you cut it. So this one here is not pulling up, I think just because of the way that the front looped. So if it comes to this, or you cannot catch your tails, something else that I do is I keep just a regular sewing needle handy near me, and you can just thread it back through. So this is the top, like on the right side. I threaded the needle and I'm literally just going through the same exact stitch hole that I started in. So I'm not creating any new hole, and I'm pulling it through to the back. So if you have trouble popping up your thread and creating that loop with a stiletto, or I've done this so many times where I've accidentally pulled and took the wrong thread loop through, and then you're like missing a stitch, then another way that you could fix that is with that needle and then manually putting it back where you need. And I definitely recommend learning how to do this because it just makes a much cleaner look. So I am going to repeat the same process for this stitch line here, and we don't have to worry so much about this back because that is going to be covered. No one's going to see this side. If you want to, you can do your stitches from the top, so you can make sure that your top stitching looks fine. But because I'm using the same thread in my top and my bobbin, it's not a big deal which way I sew. Now the next step that I'm going to do is I have a piece of my cotton lining for the zipper pocket. So it is already, I used the pattern piece to cut the marks. So I have a wool pressing mat here and this little steam fast iron, which works great. I bought it for quilting projects and I love it. I can like keep it right near my iron, or right near my sewing machine. So we have to fold these to the back to create a pocket. So if we're looking from the front, we are folding the sides in and then the top and the bottom in, and we're going to create a rectangle opening. So if you are using like a waterproof canvas or something that cannot be ironed, you might want to use double-sided tape. But because I'm using cotton woven, I'm not going to use double-sided tape since I know my machine hates it, and I can iron this. So I am just going to take the time now to carefully pull back the sides. And I don't want to pull too far because I want to try to make as nice a rectangle as I can. I don't really want to warp it. So I am pulling back all 4 sides. And this is prepping for our zipper. And this little mini iron, I do have like a link to it in my Amazon list. But I actually got it at Walmart. So if you live near Walmart, I think it was like less than $20. And it was definitely one of the best things that I've bought, especially if you do quilting or working with a lot of little pieces. And it gets pretty hot. Like, I did not let it warm up before I started doing this. So it does usually lay it flat better. And you can put water in it, but I don't. And I'm going to press from the front just to get it to hold the creases even better. So you can see if I hold it up, I have a pretty good looking rectangle here. The edges are really straight. I'm very happy with it. So now I am ready to start working on my zipper. So now we're going to do a couple different things here. I have my main exterior, my lining zipper pocket that we just prepped, and I have my zipper tape with the pull already attached. So we want to add our zipper here, centering it, and we want to make sure our pull is facing up. And that means if it's like this, our pull is going to open right to left, which is usually opposite what I do. But if your wallet is standing vertical, you want it to open from the top down. So you want to make sure when you are putting your zipper tape on that you have your pull facing up. So we are going to either use, you can use like basting spray, you can use double-sided tape, anything to hold that zipper in place. And then we are going to lay our lining right side facing up over that opening. So once you have everything stuck down, it's going to look something like this. And mine's moving on me, so it's kind of hard to see. So I'm going to take a minute and tape everything down. And I'm going to use the wash away tape around the zipper where my stitch line is going to go. But she also recommends using spray or tape when you get to this part and taping the rest of your lining down as well. So I'm going to use the stronger tape over here, and I'm going to do that all on a time lapse just because it's going to take me a little while to get it lined up nicely. So I have taken my time and lined up my lining as best I can. So now I'm going to carefully flip this over, and we are going to top stitch around our opening. So I have switched to a Teflon foot, which works better on vinyl for me. And I have left my tails long because just like we did for the bat wings, we are also going to pull the tails to the wrong side. So I just moved this around because one side of my foot is wider than the other. And on this side, I hate, well, maybe it's not so bad with this. Usually sometimes it doesn't always line up well and I feel like it's like too wide, but I'm going to try it. And I'm starting on this side here just so I'm on the opposite side of the zipper and I don't have to move my zipper as much. All right, so I have my rectangle sewn around my zipper, and we now need to attach our stabilizer. So I have my Decoville light already cut out, and we are going to, or I'm going to attach the wing first, and I just pulled this up and back a little bit if it's in the way. And I'm going to use my mini iron for this as well, but I have what's called a Teflon sheet here. You can just get them cheap on Amazon. I have one because I also do heat transfer vinyl with my Cricut machine. If you don't have a Teflon sheet, you could use parchment paper, and it's just going to help protect the vinyl from the heat of the iron. And I'm not holding it there that long. And the backside of my vinyl is fine. It didn't melt or anything. That Teflon sheet helps protect against it. And then we're going to do the same exact thing for this side. You want to make sure that your stabilizer is kind of centered, an equal distance away from all edges, and it probably goes under your pocket a tiny bit. Okay, and again, I'm going to put the the Teflon sheet. And I'm not going to hold it there that long. Now with Decoville, you're supposed to let it sit. I usually let it sit for like 20 minutes before I try sewing with it. If you have problems with it lifting off of your vinyl, it could be that you did not let it sit long enough to adhere. All right, so now we have our Decoville attached. I'm going to let it cool, and we'll move on to our next step. So next we are going to add our one part of our snap. I have used the pattern piece to mark where I'm going to punch my hole. So I am going to use my hand press. And I'm going to use these fashion snaps that I got in a kit off of Amazon. And we are going to be installing the male portion. So that's this part that pokes out. And then the female portion we are going to be installing later. So the kit comes with the tools that you need. So how we're going to do this is I'm taking the male exterior piece and pushing it through, and I have Decoville light here, so I'm not really worried about it being about the snap pulling through. But just to be sure, I sometimes take this as waterproof canvas, and sometimes I'll add this as an extra step just so that way it does not pull through. So let me put it through my waterproof canvas first, and then the hole that I punched. And this is all going to be hidden, so you're not going to see any of this. So now on this side, our piece that looks like this is going to go on top. So I'm going to place it there. And we have, this is the base of our tools. One side is flat, one side has a little point. We are using the side that has a point because that is going to, our bottom piece is going to fit onto that point. And then we have two tools here. One is used for the female portion, the pointy one, and then this one, I don't know if you can tell, but it's concave. So it's actually going to sit right over this male portion. So if you have these hand setting tools, you can take a hammer and hammer it down, or I have an arbor press, so I'm going to press it with that. Or if you have a rivet press, that's great too, and you can do the same. Okay, just ignore the craziness that I have going on over here. This is like my table where things go to sit forever. But I want to show you, this is an arbor press that I got from Harbor Freight, and I'm going to use it to install my snap. So again, I'm going to put the base underneath, setting it inside, and I'm going to put it here. And then I'm going to line up the concave side, and this handle moves this metal piece down. So I am going to line up my tools and use this handle and gently set it into place. And now this has been set and installed, and I'm ready to move on to the next step. Okay, so we just installed our male portion of our snap. So our wallet is going to look like this, and we are going to install the other portion so it closes like this. So now in order to do this, the first thing that I'm going to do is put a little piece of washi tape over the metal part. You can put masking tape, anything to just kind of, so that metal doesn't catch on anything. But so the next step is an optional step. If you want to add like a name tag or a bag tag, now is the perfect time to do that. And I have this tag here. It says Bloody Gorgeous. It is from Jade over at Heartwood and Hide, and she very graciously donated these for our sewing marathon. So shout out to Jade. Thank you so much. So I have put some double-sided tape on the back, and I centered it so it will not be in my stitch line. And I am going to fold over my flap to get an idea of where it will look or where it will close. And I am going to, I'm not going to measure, I'm just going to eyeball where I think it looks centered. Actually, I have a ruler right here. I do want to check to make sure that it's even along the bottom. And it is. All right, so I have that centered where I want it. So now I'm going to stitch that on, and I'm going to stitch it on the same exact way that I have stitched everything so far, using a top stitching length, and I'm going through multiple layers, and I want my stitching to be even, so I'm actually going to hand crank this the whole way, and I'm going to tie it off in the back just like we've done for everything else so far instead of back stitching. So I'll probably turn the rest of this into a time lapse for adding the tag. All right, so I just finished sewing on the label from Heartwood and Hide, and it looks so good. I'm gonna set this aside because we're done with this section for now. And we are going to be working on our card slot pieces. So you should have two cut out already, and I cut mine on the Cricut, so my lines and the holes in the side are perfect. You could also do this using an X-Acto and a hole punch. So yes, so you should have two of these and then two pieces of clear vinyl. I'm going to show you how to do one on camera, and I'll do the other off camera. So what we need to do is stitch this. If you look on the back side, it's 2 inches by 2 inches, and it should fit over the sides perfectly. And according to the directions, you are going to stitch all the way around all 4 sides, but I'm going to do it a little bit differently, and I'll show you why when we get to our card slots. So first what I'm going to do is I am going to put just a little tiny piece of double-sided tape on each side here where it's a little bit wider, and I'm hoping I can keep it mostly out of my my stitch line, so that way my needle does not get sticky and skip stitches or look terrible. But I definitely need to be able to hold this plastic in place. And depending what I'm sewing, sometimes I just kind of set it there and maneuver it. But with how close this needs to be to make sure that the inside's covered, I don't want to try to hold it and then miss. Alright, so I have the double-sided tape, and I am going to center this on all 4 sides. So that way when I stitch, it catches it everywhere. So what I'm going to do is on my right side, the right side facing up, I am going to only stitch 3 sides. This is how our cardstock is going to go. This is going to be on the bottom. I'm actually going to start and go around the top. So one side, the top, and down the other end, because I'm going to attach the card slots here after. Alright, so again, I'm going to use this side of my foot, so I'm actually going to start on this side. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to hand crank it in because I want to control the stitches. And I'm not back stitching, so I can tie it off. So I'm going to try to sew, see if it will move, because sometimes the plastic can be sticky. It's hard to see my stitches. I think it's coming out okay. And when I get to where I'm going to pivot again, I'm definitely hand cranking it. Well, I'm going to go, sometimes I turn it and I'm like, oh, that stitch is not a good enough turn. So then I turn it back, hand crank it 1 more stitch. Okay, and then sew across here. Check to see if this turn is good. I'm gonna do 1 more. I'm gonna hand crank it here. I could feel the plastic sticking to the bottom of my machine. I like to use, if that happens, you can use parchment paper. Some people recommend tissue paper, but parchment paper is much easier to get out of your seams when you have to tear it off. Okay, and I'm gonna bring it down past the bottom here by a stitch or 2. Do 1 more. And I'll explain when I start the card slots. So again, I'm gonna pull this out with plenty of extra thread. And I'm now gonna bring these tails to the back and tie off like what we did before. And you can see it goes all the way around, catches all my sides, and looks great. Okay, so one other thing that I'm going to do before I start my card slots, I saw Kathy from K-Dill Handmade do this. And when we start our card slots, we're going to be starting sewing underneath the second opening here. But to keep it uniform, Kathy also sewed another stitch along. So I'm going to do the same thing here. So I'm going to line up like right below this hole, like about halfway between. And I'm going to line up my needle first, put my presser foot down, and then I'm going to hand crank. and I'm going to stop about halfway underneath the hole on the end. Leave enough for my tails to tie. So now you can see I have 2 lines of stitching. The bottom one is securing my plastic on the back, and the top one is just decorative to match the rest. So we're going to be doing something similar down here as well. So I'm going to take a second off camera, pull these tails to the back, tie them off, and then I'm going to show you how to do your card slots. All right, so now we have attached our clear vinyl here for our opening for a license or whatever you might want to put. We are going to start our card slots, but in the pattern she has you sew like a stitch across here and then a second line, and then when we put it all together you're going to end up with a 3rd line. And I really only want 2 lines, so I'm going to do this. This is why I left that stitching off here. What you do is we are going to put a piece of double-sided tape down at the bottom here. And I bought this little, it's called the Cardslot template from Carolina Little Stitches, and she has the lines marked, and it is perfect when you are trying to make your card slots. So I'm going to put that in and line it up with the dotted line that she has horizontally, and that is telling me how far down my card slot needs to go. If you do not have this tool, you could just take any card that you have, this is like a hotel room key, and slide it in to get that measurement. So I am going to add some double-sided tape. I had to find my double-sided tape, it went rolling away. So I'm going to move this out of the way here, add some double-sided tape, peel that off, and now I am taking my card slot lining and I am going to place it right side facing down. And why I say right side facing down is because if you have, like if you're using a print, whatever your print is going to show through your clear card pocket slot. So mine is just black, so it doesn't really matter. So now I'm going to slide my template back in, or if you have whatever card you're using. And this is going to give me an idea of how far down I need to stitch. All right, so I think I'm going to stitch about 1/4 of an inch above here. But I did not take these the 3 sides far enough down. So I'm actually going to start in the same hole that I ended when I was stitching down and around. So I'm going to hand crank it in. Okay, and then so I'm going to continue my stitches down and then sew across. And I'll have to come back up on the other side. Making sure I'm lined up exactly. Now, if you did it the way in the pattern and you already sewed your 4 sides, your card slot should be ready to go, and this will be your second line down here. So I can, before I tie everything in the back, you can check this slot and make sure that your card fits in appropriately. And mine fits fine. So I am going to take my tails, pull them to the back, tie them off, and then I'll show you the next step. Okay, so I have tied off on the back side of my card slots. So it should look like this. So now we have the opening here, the first one. We are going to go to our second opening. So I'm going to take, again, a tiny piece of double-sided tape, and I am going to try to keep it out of my stitch line. So I'm going to center that here. Sometimes it can be a pain to get the backing off. I just usually try to take my nail until I get it. And we are going to take our card slot lining and pull it up. So it is laying straight and covering. So if we look at it, it is covering our slots across. And we are going to flip this over to the right side. And again, if we look from the right side, you can see that our lining, we don't see any light coming through because our lining is blocking all the holes. That's how you know you have it lined up pretty well. And we are going to stitch across. So the same thing that we did at this bottom stitch, we're doing to this now second row. So again, I'm going to hand stitch, or like hand crank it into right below that center of the hole. Put my presser foot down, and I left tails because I'll be tying these. And you can back stitch, that's not a problem. If you just don't want to see the back stitch, you can hand tie. If your double-sided tape is making your needle sticky, you could take like an alcohol swab and wipe it as you're sewing. But so far mine has been okay. It's not skipping stitches or anything. So I'm pretty happy with that. Okay, and then I'm going to cut this here. And now this stitch has secured for our bottom slot. So that when you put it in there, it will not fall out the bottom. All right, so I have just tied off from the back, and now our next step is to fold our card slots lining down. That's really important because if it was still up, you'd be like, oh no, I can't put any card in. But when you fold it down, it creates that opening. So you are going to fold it down, and then this is where I love the tool from Carolina Little Stitches, because I can just line up the dotted line at my card slot pocket and see how far down I need to make this crease. So you can either use a business card, your own ID, credit card, anything, but I also really recommend this tool. And so we are going to take another piece of double-sided tape. We are going to put it next to our, or underneath our second from the top line, because that's where our next stitching is going to go. Again, I apologize. Sometimes I have so much trouble trying to get the tape off, or the backing of the tape. All right, so again, you are going to use your card to line up, and you are going to fold your fabric up and over that card, sticking it to the double-sided tape that you had there. My card is also sticking to the double-sided tape, so that's why you see me struggling with it. So now we have this nice fold here that's going to hold the card in that card slot. And we are going to stitch again right underneath, it's the third from the bottom or the second down from the top on that card. So now we're going to repeat the same process that we did for this card slot for the next. So we just finished stitching under our very top card slot, but we need to still finish our loop that's going to hold that card in place. So we're going to follow the same exact process of measuring this out, putting the double-sided tape, but when we sew, we are going to sew on the top of this line. So you can put your card in and try to get a measurement of how far you want it to stick out and where you should put that top stitch line. But that's how we are going to seal up this last card slot. And if you don't do that, your card will get lost inside your wallet when you try to do it. So it's really, really important that you do not forget this step. I just finished tying off our last stitch, which I did above our top card slot. So if all your card slots are functioning, you can then, we have some extra here just to be on the safe side, trim your exterior or your extra lining. And I trimmed mine to make sure it was out of the seam allowance. If you wanted to put some double-sided tape between each of these flaps, you could do that as well, just to hold them down, but they're gonna get sewn into our wallet anyways. So we have 2 card slot pockets like this. So now I'm gonna sew up the second one, but because I've walked you through this one entirely, I am going to do this one off camera. Okay, so now I have both of my card slot pockets done, and we need to put the lining on the back because in the wallet it's going to sit here and there's going to be like a slot behind it. So we need to line them. So we have our 2 card slot lining pieces or pocket lining, and on the back they are folded in on one side. I press them since I'm using cotton woven. So if this is the side that has that folded over, I need to match it up with the correct side so that way when I stitch them together it creates that pocket. So I am going to line this up and use clips here. And I'm not going to worry about how bulky this is or anything right now. I'm only stitching onto that one side. So I'm lining it up exactly with the edge. So from the front it looks like this. You cannot see any of the card slot linings or the pocket here, and I'm gonna stitch from the top, and yeah, I think I'm gonna start at the bottom. So now we're going to assemble our wallet. I am placing my zipper pocket lining, the main lining, and then clipping into place both sides of our card slot pocket. And then I am making sure that I'm attaching the wing to the right hand side, and I'm going to take my time off camera to really line it up and make sure everything is matched up perfectly. Alright, so I have taken my time and have clipped all the way around, making sure that none of the lining is poking past the edge, that if looking from this way, everything is lined up perfectly. If you hand cut or if it's not, you can trim it off after, but I use my Cricut to cut it, so everything is pretty even. I think I'm going to top stitch it from this side, like put it on the machine this way so I can make sure this top stitch is even. To me, that's more important that the outside is even than this inside portion. And I'm hoping that this doesn't get caught on anything. Okay, so I have just sewed all around the outside of the wallet and I'm pretty happy. It took a long time because I literally hand cranked the whole thing, but I'm really happy with how it looks. In most parts, right here it got tucked under a little bit, but we're gonna seal that up, so it's not a big deal. And so I wanted to show you that instead of pulling to the back, I am going to hide these threads between these two pieces of vinyl. I've already pulled two through, and then I was like, oh, maybe I should show this. So what I do here is I thread my needle and go through one of the holes that is already made and pull the thread up between my two pieces of vinyl. And you'll have to do this 4 times because you'll have 2 top threads and 2 bottom threads. Okay, and now that I have all 4 through, I'm going to separate it 2 and 2, and I'm going to triple knot it like I normally do, but I'm going to pull it extremely tight. And when I do, you can see that the knot gets hidden between the 2 layers of vinyl. So this is something else that you could do to really hide that knot, and so you don't see the back stitch or you don't see where it's tied off. And then I am going to snip it extremely close, and you can't tell that that is where I had started or stopped. Okay, so now we are going to sew an additional 3 lines. Our wallet is open. We are going to sew down the middle here to hold this lining in place, and that also seals up our zipper pocket. And we are going to sew down the right hand side of our card slot, and that will be good because where my thing kind of got tucked under, that is going to seal that up for me. And then we are also going to sew down the edge here of this wing to close that up. So 3 more lines of stitching, and you can hide the threads. Like I said, not here you won't be able to because there's not 2 pieces of vinyl, but for these 2 stitches you will. I might just backstitch on these though because of where they are. Finished up my center line, sewing the right hand side of this pocket here and the wing flap. So before I put in my last snap, I am going to take a second and just trim any rough edges. So you can see it's sticking up a little bit here and a little bit on the bottom here and a little bit on the wing. So I'm going to trim all of that off right now. And our final step is to attach our snap. So I'm just going to fold it close and kind of make sure that it looks good lined up, which I think it does. But if I go like this, I can see that my silver dot that I drew is, oh look, I didn't even realize that my Cricut cut it. All right, so my silver dot is almost exactly on point where that was cut. So you can either take your template sheet to mark the hole, or if you were like me and you cut it out with SVG and didn't realize it was cut, it is. So I'm gonna cut all the way through because I know it didn't go through all of them. Okay, so now we are gonna install our female portion of the snap. So my flat side is gonna go from the top. So that way, when it closes, it will be flat here. And I'm gonna add this portion on top of it. And so now how we set this one is, since this is flat, you are going to set it on the flat side of your base. And then you are going to take the setting tool that has the little point, and that little point goes in the center. It's going to line up with the hole on the post, and then you are going to hammer it in. And I'm going to use my arbor press for this. So I just set my snap using the arbor press. So you can see, snaps together, and we are completely done. If you do not want to finish your edges, I am going to edge coat mine, so I'm going to show you how I do that now. But if you wanted to finish here, your wallet is complete. You have your card slots. You have, it won't hold like a bill completely open, but you could fold your bill in half, use it here, and it looks great. I'm really happy with it. All right, our wallet is finished, but I want to add a layer of edge coat, and that is usually done in 3 layers. I already put on 1 layer of the first, a base coat. I like to do 2 or 3 base coat, 2 or 3 paint, and then 2 or 3 top coat. So for base coat here, this is from RM Leather Supply Company. It's not my favorite. It's really like liquidy, and that makes it kind of hard for me to work with. I did have Giardini, but they're only good for a year, and it had dried up. And I actually just ordered some from Mojo Sews. She has some really highly recommended paints, and I haven't tried them yet, and a base coat and top coat. But I have so much of this that I didn't need it till now. So I'm hoping to get that soon, and I'll let you know. But for now, I'm using this base coat. I'm using the Angelus red paint, and these are leather paints. So edge coating is meant for leather, or you can use it on vinyl if the edges are raw. So I use this for the paint, and then I use the Giardini top coat, and I got glossy. They also have like a matte one. Some people only put the paint and the base coat. Really recommend the top coat. That's what makes it really polish it off, but also protects it. So for me, all 3 steps are a must if you are going to do this. And I highly recommend this tool. Some people say they use a paintbrush, but this tool actually rolls. So when you are putting your stuff on, it's rolling, and there's little grooves that catch the liquid. And to me, I originally tried with a paintbrush, and it's like night and day difference. I actually have these things linked in my description under my Amazon. So if you want to save some money, just buy some off of Amazon. Angelus has like a starter kit. You could definitely try that. but I'm gonna do red. I could do black and let it blend in, but I think the red will be a nice pop. So I'm going to show you a little bit of the base coat. I've already put one layer on, and what I liked about the Giardini, their base coat is dense, so it kind of fills in. So if you have like gaps between your vinyl, it will fill that in. So you can see here, like, this is really liquidy, so I'm just going to take my time. And depending on your base coat, like this one is kind of clear. The Giardini was like almost like a white color. And then people sand between them. I personally don't. I've never had luck sanding. I've tried sanding, and I feel like I just take off any layer of base coat that I have just put on. So you can try doing a light sand between and see if that works for you. Alright, so I've put 2 layers of the base coat on my edges. So now I am going to continue with the paint, and I'm going to do a red edge coat, which is a little bit daring. Normally I just do black or blend whatever color in, but since I use variegated thread, I figured let's give it a try. So I'm not going to put a whole ton of paint on because I don't want it to drip on my, like, down the sides or anything. So I have finished up 2 coats of the red edge paint all the way around. So now I am going to add the last coat, or the last step I should say, which is the top coat. And you can see that this one is like a little bit thicker. It almost looks white when it goes on. And I tend to put mine on pretty thick, and that creates like a nice smooth texture. Alright, thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you loved the sew along. Let me know in the comments. Thank you again to Brittalicious Designs for allowing me to sew up your Batwing wallet. As a reminder, I tagged all her information in the description. Definitely check out her site. She has added fabric, zipper tape, zipper pulls. It's a really great shop. It's also Canadian too, so if you are in Canada, it might work out great for you. So yeah, thank you again. I absolutely love this little cutie, and I can't wait to see you guys all in the next video.